this is the road that is leading towards Ranil Vikramesinge's private residence, now which was burned down. We see that there is a standoff right now at the moment between the police and also the anti-government protesters. The frustrated anti-government protesters have spilled onto the streets. In fact, there are several, in terms of news that's doing the rounds, that there can be chances that Prime Minister Ranil Vikramesinge can also become the, acting president. So, hearing all these rumors and some of the local media reports, we see several of the protesters have spilled onto the streets. This is the standoff that you're witnessing at the moment between the protesters and the special task force, the police. The Air Force is also on the ground. Several rounds of tear gas shells were fired here. In fact, water cannon was also sprayed on these very protesters. They are shouting slogans with regard to the anti-government. Slogans are being shouted at the moment, and we understand several of the protesters are questioning the army and the security forces that how could they have betrayed the country after the Rajpaksas have forced these people onto the streets. Now, the crowd is swelling. It's over, in fact, 2,000 protesters who are gathered here at the moment. We see that the face-off between the police officers and the protesters are taking place at the moment. They are trying to lay siege, especially to the private residence of Prime Minister Ranil Vikramesinge. They are trying to
Go back! I got hold of you. Go back!
One second, please. The protesters have managed to breach the security right now. The police and the Air Force. The protesters are now running toward Ranil Vikramesinge's residence. In fact, this exactly was how we understand several of the protesters had managed to breach the heavily guarded presidential palace and the heavily guarded temple trees as well. But now what you witnessed on your screens is the protesters have breached the security at the moment. They have pushed the security forces. They are trying to enter Ranil's private residence. Water cannons have been brought to the location to ensure they can, force the protesters out of this very location. You can see thousands and thousands of protesters are now running toward Ranil Vikramesinge's private burnt residence. What you see just ahead of me is the tear gas that's being shelled. Several protesters, in fact, questioning the fact how the government, or the military for that matter, allowed Mr. Gotabaya Rajpaksa to flee the country when they are the only and the sole reasons why they are out in the streets today. The crowd is swelling, and in fact this is the very crowd that we witnessed and saw that they were walking from the Galle Face, the Colombo, the epicenter of the anti-government protests. That's the exact place where we witnessed the Sri Lankan uprising on July 9th. Now, they have managed to walk over 8 kilometers from Galle Face Green to this particular location. The crowd is swelling. In fact, these are frustrated anti-government protesters who for over 95 days they've been out in the streets, where the particular empty site, which is a ground which was dedicated by the government called the demonstration site, where the government was converted into Gota Gogama, which is today a village created by the citizens of Sri Lanka, which they dedicated that entire place to Sri Lankan citizens to ensure all those who want to voice against the government can come, stay there, build a tent, and voice against the government. So this is the cheering moment right now at the moment right now for those citizens. They're cheering the fact that they've managed to breach the security You have the Air Force on ground, you have the police, you have several companies of the Special Task Force who are all, in fact, deployed at this point in time to ensure that there's no untoward incidents. But we see it's a similar situation that we witnessed on the 9th of July as well. Citizens managed to breach the security. They've gone way past all the barricades that have been placed by the police at the moment. We're walking along with the protesters. Now they've crossed this main junction. Now to your right, what you see just in the front ahead of me is Ranil Wickremesinghe's residence that was burnt down by the protesters on the 9th of July. In fact, all this while, there were several talks and rumors about where exactly is Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa is. But today, there is a clarity all this while. Since the 9th onward, after he fled from his residence, the presidential palace, he escaped, leaving his citizens out on the streets. There were no confirmation whatsoever until early this morning. And then we receive a confirmation from the Air Force saying that it was they themselves who had helped Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa escape from the country, escape from Sri Lanka. He's landed in Maldives. He's been received in Maldives at the moment. But what we witness back home here in Sri Lanka is people are relentlessly protesting. They say they will not stop until Gotabaya resigns and Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe resigns. So we've walked right now from the point where they breached the security for over a kilometer now, along with the protesters. They're slowly marching toward. In fact, onto my right is the burnt house, what you're witnessing.
As Srija just showed us that protesters are breaching security. They've pushed security forces in order to enter Ranil Wickremesinghe's private residence. Very dramatic visuals there from Colombo, where protesters are barging in to Ranil Wickremesinghe's private residence. Now remember, key members of Sri Lanka's ruling party are keen to back Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe as the presidential nominee, but no final decision has been taken yet. This is according to ruling party sources. And as Sri Lanka waits for President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to resign, as promised today, hectic efforts are ongoing in various political camps to lay claim to the office. Meanwhile, Go Gota Go protesters are ready to ensure that no one in the current dispensation is able to stay on. Let's go back to Srija, who's tracking the story in Colombo. Srija, have the protesters made any progress? Give us a sense of the atmosphere on the ground.
The protesters have now passed Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe's private residence, which was burned down on the 9th of July. Now, what you see, the protesters right behind me, just ahead of me, there are over thousands of protesters who have gathered now. And this is not really the end of it, because what they say is that they are still waiting for Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa to resign. What's more important to note here is Mr. Rajapaksa enjoys the immunity from arrest. That's one of the reasons why we understand. The defense confirmed to NDTV, Air Force says that they were obligated to give Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa the plane so that he could land in Maldives. Mr. Gotabaya has left along with his wife and two other bodyguards as well, security. And he has successfully managed to flee from the country, leaving tens and thousands of people out here on the streets. In fact, the people have all gathered here. When we spoke to the protesters here, they say they're going to lay siege to the parliament because the protesters where are you all heading to?
We are heading to our Prime Minister home. Because he decided to become president. We don't like him. We tell him, Gota and Ranil, go home. Should go home.
Okay.
This is not our way. Because if we need to run in, why we protest about 3 months?
How long will you all continue with the protest?
Until Gota and Ranil leave.
So you want Ranil and Gota both to leave?
They should go.
Okay, well, now the protesters have sat right here.
Gota!